Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, based upon wherever you are. Welcome to this webinar on knowledge management, where we are covering what's new in the Kingston release of ServiceNow. My name is Sarup Paul. I'm a product manager here at ServiceNow, responsible for self-service applications, looking after knowledge management communities and service portals. For today, we are going to cover, we'll start with a little bit of a refresher on what the product does, and then look into what we recently did in Jakarta. Then we will dive into the features for Kingston, do a few slides, and then jump into a demo. Towards the end of the conversation, we'll open up for question and answers. Lisa, who is the moderator for this webinar, is monitoring both the Google Hangout chat as well as the question answer on the community itself. We encourage you to post your questions on the community so that other users can benefit from seeing those questions as well as the responses that we will post on them. So with that, let's get started. So just a refresher, ServiceNow Knowledge Management, as most of you would have seen this slide before as well. So we have two major personas that interact with our knowledge management system. On the left, you have the customer or the employee, remembering that ServiceNow is a multi-product company where not only do we have internal-facing applications such as ITSM and HR and security operations, but we also have a major presence in customer service management, where the end user is actually a customer of your enterprise. So that persona is looking for self-service, whether it's through a mobile or through the portal, and trying to get answers to their questions by interacting with their knowledge, with the knowledge base. On the right, we have the persona who is the agent or the technician, who is trying to help any questions that may have been converted into incidents or cases or HR cases, and they need knowledge in the context of what they are trying to do, whether it is interacting with a case or incident or a chat. And then in the center, we have the two artifacts, a knowledge base, where traditionally you have the knowledge articles stored in various knowledge bases, categorized Q&A component, where the collaboration is between the end users themselves, and they are generating questions and answers that can be transformed into knowledge. Some of you may recollect that in the Jakarta release, we introduced the communities product, which is currently available for our CSM customers, which is the next generation of social Q&A, and much improved in terms of full-fledged capabilities around managing forums, communities, moderation, gamification as such. So between knowledge base and the social components, we generate a lot of information that can be used by both of these personas. The typical life cycle of creating, reviewing, submitting feedback, and then improving the article forms the workflow of this product. The key benefit of ServiceNow Knowledge Management, as it stands, being an integrated tool into the platform, is that it is core to all the activities that you are doing on the platform, whether it is providing support on a product or an asset, working with the workflows that are associated with your other processes, such as incident, change, problem. You can tie it with SLAs, do collaboration around knowledge, and then see knowledge in mobile, get analytics and access knowledge through APIs. So being integrated into a platform gives it so much more advantage over standalone solutions that are out there in the market, and which you have to integrate and keep in sync. So that's at a very high level what we do in ServiceNow Knowledge Management. Let's talk about what we did recently in Jakarta. As some of you are aware and may have attended the webinar or viewed the webinar offline for the Jakarta release, it was a major release in terms of features that we added. Amongst them, this is just a refresher. If you need more details, we can obviously go into the other webinar. So version control, that's the time we introduced where you can publish your content, have versions tagged with them as they are being drafted and reviewed and going on to publishing. And then as you make updates, it goes from 1.0, 2.0, and so on. You have the ability to check in, check out documents, secure those various versions, ability to compare, and able to manage the entire life cycle of your document. We introduced also the knowledge management portal experience. So on service portal technology, we have now various pages for knowledge management. The home page, which shows multiple KBs, some of the widgets around featured content, rated content, and most like content. And then that page itself is configurable and customizable, since it is on the ServiceNow service portal platform. And then we also introduced the search results page, which, as you may recollect, also has configurable facets, configurable sort options, and highly customizable experience, and all of which can be done through widget options and instance options that provide you a quick way to customize the search experience for your end users without needing to code. Hugely successful in terms of adoption that we are seeing on those on that particular portal experience. We also added a subscription feature in Jakarta, through which customers, your end users, can subscribe to an article or a knowledge base. Subscribing to an article actually provides you the ability to get informed when an update is done on that article, or if you are the author or the reviser of that article, then any comment on that article actually leads to a notification. Subscribing to a knowledge base actually allows you to get updates on any new articles that may be published in that knowledge base. Through subscriptions, you are proactively providing updates to your end users for knowledge that is being created or updated. TinyMC, which is the editor that we use for our knowledge tool, that was also upgraded as of Jakarta to the Enterprise Edition. There were a few search algorithmic changes, specifically around partial matching and inverse document frequency, that hugely improve the search results experience that we have. And also, we introduced dynamic filters for contextual search, through which you can, apart from just taking the short description as an input for the search that is shown in contextual search, whether it's an incident or case, we can also take other fields that are part of the incident or case to pre-filter the search results. Let's say there is an asset or a product tagged to that case, we can use that to pre-filter the search results. Or if it's in case, in the situation of an HR case, you can use the employee information. Let's say just know the employee name, then you can dot walk on that data to find the location, maybe give policies specific to that location that the user is looking for. So that was also introduced in Jakarta. Overall, a very packed release, and as I was mentioning earlier, we are seeing a lot of adoption, and we are very encouraged by that. So following on the heels of that, Kingston also happens to be a very packed release. So we are excited to share with you some of those features. Over the next few slides, I'm going to talk about those features, and then towards the end, I'll try to do a live demo. So the first feature that we introduced was configurable article templates. Essentially, when an article is authored, if it is following a certain template, it makes it, there are two benefits out of it. A well-formatted content is very easily readable. So let's say for a troubleshooting article, you have issue, environment, case, resolution, and then it makes it very easy for the person who is reading it to write it up. Obviously, on the flip side of it, the authoring of that article becomes significantly easier, because then you have various sections where you can put that content. Not only that, it helps the knowledge managers achieve some sort of standardization and governance across all the content that is being created. This is better than what we have today in the platform for any tech HTML field, where you can insert a template, which is basically inserts an HTML header, but that can be updated by the author. So this brings in that benefit. We are shipping with 4 different article templates: how to, cases, article, what is, and FAQ. And those are actually can be enabled by you. We do not enable them out of the box. You can enable them by just clicking on the active button on each of those templates, and then those templates are available for you. You can obviously create your new templates for your own processes. You can modify the templates that we are shipping out of the box. You can add new fields to existing templates. You can change the order, make them mandatory, change the type, amongst various other things. We also have introduced the ability to restrict fields to specific roles. You may be aware of field level ACLs that you can already implement today. We have gone one more step further with uh, introducing something called as encrypted context. So where you can define those field an encrypted context for a specific role, and then when you insert that field into any template, those fields are only available to specific roles. Again, in restricting fields to specific roles gives you the benefit of having a same article being shared by two different audiences, and then depending upon who you are, you see something more. So, example being your employees or customers are seeing a troubleshooting article where all the information is there, but your agents may be able to see an internal note. So, hugely beneficial in that matter. And those fields that you are securing through encrypted context are also honored by search. So which means that if you are searching for a term and that is in an internal notes field, as a customer you will not get that result returned to you, but if you are the agent you would get that return. So that's article templates. You are actually seeing KCS article template there. That's one of the things that we are actually working towards. As some of you may be aware, KCS stands for Knowledge Centered Service. It's a methodology that is owned by Consortium for Service Innovation, and we're working towards the certification of that. And this feature is towards that certification. Next is in context article creation. This feature allows to capture content from a case into a knowledge article during the case resolution process. So as you can see on the left, the case is being shown. There are various fields in the cause or the close notes, and that information, when you click on create knowledge, actually brings it over into the knowledge article. There is a little bit difference between what you may have seen for this feature with respect to product knowledge, where you extract knowledge from a product, sorry, not a product, from a problem. We go a few steps further on this. First of all, when you click on create knowledge, the knowledge article opens up with all the fields pre-populated. You still have the option as an agent to clean up that content, make it generic and not specific, and then so that you're able to create a knowledge article that can be applied to other customers or employees. So that's point number one. The other is that we have provided a mapping configuration, not scripting, but mapping configuration through which you can define which fields from the case will flow into the knowledge article. That's configurable through platform forms and lists. Um, One other point to observe here is that this feature out of the box is enabled for case management, or that is CSM, customer services management. However, because this is configurable, it's very easy to configure a similar action on incident or problem or change if you want to, and configure it to open that, create the article. Also, what you're observing here is that the previous feature that we talked about, article template, is kind of integrated into this solution as well. So you can create an article, and then using the template feature, have different fields, and those are the ones that you can map in here. So overall, this is as well in line with some of the best practices around creating knowledge directly from an incident or a case. Um, the key benefit here being that information captured in the customer's language is more likely to be easily found by another customer who is trying to report a similar issue. So that's one of the key benefits. And then As you are capturing this information, the agent has that information fresh in the mind, maybe the cause, the resolution, and all of that. It's more likely to be captured well and better than doing it offline. All right, so that's in context article creation. Next feature, article quality index. So some of you who are familiar with KCS concepts, article quality index is a means to quantify the quality of an article. And the way we do it is through questionnaires that can be attached to articles, and then an AQI can be performed on the article based on those questionnaires. We ship a predefined set of questions in line with the KCS best practices, and you can create your own checklist based upon those or use it out of the box. You can attach a custom questionnaire, and it can be configured at a knowledge base level. So your HR group may decide that they want to implement AQI. They create a questionnaire, attach it to the HR knowledge base. Your IT group can do it separately, a different questionnaire, and then attach it to the knowledge base level. The beauty of this model is we optimize how the score is calculated based upon the different questionnaires, and it's always a score based on 100, right? So you can define the weights of the different questions, and the score always calculates to 100. So in general, even if different departments, different knowledge bases are using different questionnaires, you can have an uniform AQI score across all your knowledge bases, and your knowledge managers can track that, and then work towards the improvement of the quality of your knowledge articles. AQIs can be typically performed by two new roles that we have introduced, the domain expert and the coach, also in line with KCS best practices. And these can be used, these roles can be used to perform the AQIs. So that's AQI. The next one, and we are particularly very excited about this feature, is the ability to search external content. So in search technologies, there are two different, fundamentally different methodologies around search. One is the more commonly used term is called as federated search, whereas the other term, not that commonly known, but very effective and more one of the best practices is unified search. So let me explain what I mean by that. So federated search is where a single system where you are trying to display search results, you trigger search queries into different systems from where you want to get the content and you want to search the content. Let's say there is one SharePoint system, one Box system, and from ServiceNow, if you want to do federated search, you're going to shoot a query to each of those. They in turn will give a result based upon their own search algorithms, and on the UI, you combine that result. Typically, these have challenges either in terms of relevancy, if you're trying to, inorganically combine that result into one relevant list, or trying to do tabs for individual systems, because then the user doesn't know, the end user doesn't know where to find the information. A superior method is unified search, where you try to index or acquire the content from all those third-party systems into one area and then index based upon that. And that's the benefit of that, is that you use a single search engine that is actually returning content from all of those sources, and there is one relevancy engine that drives that, and it's much simpler in the UX. So that's the method that we have taken up, and the way we do it is through a concept called as wrapper articles. So we have methods, we have a configuration screen, as you can see on the left, where you can set up a source and say, hey, go crawl this source. And once the crawl is done, it creates knowledge articles in our system. Those are knowledge wrapper articles. One wrapper article per content that you are seeing from the third party system. So we are following a protocol called as WebDAV, and this is a typical protocol that various enterprise content management systems honor. The two that we have kept in mind are SharePoint and Box. Officially, we don't have in the product any specific integrator for SharePoint or Box, but you can use WebDAV, which is supported by both SharePoint and Box, to acquire the content. You have various means of controlling what content comes over. So as you can see on the left, there are various parameters. Only 3 are displayed, but there are various parameters available to limit the size of the files that you're getting from each source, the total amount of file that you get from each source, whether you want to open the article in that source or not. You can even define regex patterns, regular expression patterns, to say you want files from a certain location or a file of a certain type, and you don't want files of certain types. So that helps you bring in curated content through this integration into your knowledge base, and then you are able to search on it as if those content are actually in your system. We do have some guardrails and limitations in the amount of content that you can bring from a third-party system. We are just trying to keep in mind the performance of our ServiceNow application when we are doing this. So we are limiting the total amount of the total size of content from third-party system to about 2 gigabytes, and that allows if it's a typical content size, it's just articles. That is typical of about 200 to 250,000 articles, equivalent to 250,000 articles on our system. And with that, we are able to ensure certain degree of performance with that much amount of content. Again, as I mentioned, we don't expect you to crawl entire sources. We would love you to do the curated source. There is a there is a philosophy in search called as junk in, junk out. So if you have too much content, it's less likely that your end users are going to be able to find that content. So curated content is always better. But we have allowed enough bandwidth in terms of or file size in terms of 2 gigabytes, which is a tremendous amount of content. And we are going to observe how this feature is getting used, and then we may optimize it later. Obviously, once the content is in our system and you're viewing that article, if you are opening that article in our system, then we have the benefit of tracking the usage of that content. You always, obviously, if you think that a particular piece of content from a particular source is being heavily used, it's probably a best practice to convert that into the native knowledge content. That would be as simple as changing the knowledge base of that content into one of our existing knowledge bases. Talking about that, the security of the content that is being acquired is determined based upon the security of where you are keeping that content in our system. So if you, let's say, for example, if you see here on the left hand side, it talks about it is the target knowledge base is in a product documentation knowledge base that you have created. The security that you define on that knowledge base is what determines the security of the content that goes inside it. It is possible for you to do even article level security. For that, you will need to do certain customizations and change some code on our side. There are places where you can do that and customize that to do article level security, even though the content is one knowledge base. So that's external content search. The next feature that we have is around search KPIs. So we have introduced two reports. The first one is called as a click-through report. And essentially what we are doing is we are tracking the information when you are doing a search. If a search result from that particular was clicked through. So let's say 10 results were shown, you clicked on one article, we registered that information. So a high click-through rate indicates that your search relevancy is higher because your customers or end users are actually clicking through an article and they find it helpful. So click-through rate is one of the reports that we have introduced. We capture that data. While we are capturing that data, we also are capturing the click rank for that click-through. So let's say I see the search results. The user clicks on the second item, one user clicks on the seventh item, one user clicks on the fourth item. We can average that for all the click-throughs, and then we provide a report called as average click rank. A high click rank which means if a number is high, that is not really good, because that means that relevant results that the user are finding are lower on the page. A lower click rank is usually good. Anything, you know, lower than 3 or 4 is considered a good click rank. While we implemented this feature, we have also captured in the system the session information. So, and I'll show that to you as well. So let's say a search was made. In that search, when we store that information, we also store the session ID. And similarly, if an article is viewed in that session, we store the session ID. But not only that, when an article is viewed from search, we also capture or reference the search that was done prior to viewing that article. Um, we go even further. If an article is viewed and some feedback is provided during a search session, we actually capture the search ID there as well. So some of this information has been captured with the idea in the future to do few things. One of them is around journey mapping. So, we want to measure deflection. So session has happened, search was done, article viewed, no case was created. We should be able to measure the deflection now. The second thing that we want to look at is, from this information, maybe we can use machine learning to derive which articles are more relevant for certain searches, and then use that to improve our search results. So there are certain things that we are instrumenting in this release, where we will be able to capture that data going forward, and that can be used for various improvements in our search experience in the future. All right, so that's what search KPIs. The next feature is knowledge harvesting. So for those who are familiar with the communities product that was launched in Jakarta, we are actually integrating knowledge and communities, so that from a solved question and answer in the community, we can harvest knowledge articles. Similar to what we did from case to knowledge, here we are harvesting from a community's discussion thread into a knowledge article. You have the ability to capture the context, so maybe the question and the answer both are captured. You can configure the mapping of which field goes into what in the knowledge article using the templates. Out of the box, we are using the standard template for knowledge article, so all of that goes into a text. You can auto classify that article from a specific forum in the community to a specific knowledge base, and that can be configured as well. So harvested knowledge doesn't just go willy-nilly into a black box. It is actually going into a specific area, into a specific knowledge base, and is curated. So overall, this enables to harvest knowledge, be able to find information that your end users have actually generated because of the interactions. And it's quite often that we find that your end users or your customers actually know more about your product and services than you do, and in a better place to generate knowledge. So this is an effective means of tapping into that. All right. um, the next thing that we did was introduce a search bar within contextual search. The contextual search team is a different team here at ServiceNow, and we worked with them to introduce this feature. The key benefit here is obviously that you don't have to mess up anymore with the short description of the case or incident to get a different search results, or pre-filter this or refine the search. You have a search bar, and that you can do a different search than what was in the short description, as you can see from this example. And I think that's it. So we are ready for the demo. I'll switch over to my demo instance. All right. So I'll showcase some of those things that we discussed in the slides. So let's start with article templates. So the first thing, as I said, we are shipping with 4 out-of-the-box templates. So you're seeing how to, what is KCS article FAQ. You can obviously create your own templates if you want to, and you can also modify the existing templates. So let's open up one of these templates. As you can see, you can activate, deactivate that template, have a description sheet with it, can define the separate fields. Each field can have different types. So let's say I add a field here, and I can change the type. I can even decide what's the order, or the whether it is mandatory or not. And in that way, you can implement governance around your knowledge articles. Once templates are are defined, those are available for your authors. So let's say if I click on knowledge, create new, you will see an interceptor show up. And when you pick up a template, you can actually create that article right here. So let's say we do one. If I could type today. And then let's say I submit that. So that article, when it is viewed, I'll just go ahead and publish this so that I can actually show that content to you as well. So what you are seeing in action here is the version control system that was introduced with Jakarta. So you're seeing all the versions actually show up, and the article is now published. Now, if I go into my KBUI, sort by newest, I can see that article. And that in the service portal UI, you actually see the different sections, and they are clearly dynamically generated. So helps in standardizing the article that we have. Okay, so that is article templates. As I said, your standard whatever customizations that you may have on your current template, they are already here. That will show up under standard, and then we are so we are not messing around with what your existing ones are. And the other templates actually show up here. So that's article templates. Next, I'm going to show you the case in context knowledge creation. So let's say I pick up a case here. This is yeah. So let's pick up this case, and I have the various information here just to showcase the contextual search that I talked about. If I, let's say, search on, you can see different search results without having to mess around with that. I just showed it while I'm doing something here. So what I'll do is I'll insert some information which will allow me to showcase this feature a little bit better. Performance degraded due to recommended to upgrade latest. If I save this information now when I'm going to create this knowledge, you're going to see that template show up. This is because it is currently tied up with the KCS template. The information that is captured, the short description is populated from the case. The issue is marked as mandatory because I had marked it as mandatory. case and resolution are automatically copied over. Um, Performance is slow. I'm terrible at coming up with new things here. So, all right. So that's basically creating an article from a case. And in fact, um, as I was talking about this, this is highly configurable. So creating a case from creating a knowledge article from a case. This is actually a configuration here. And as I was telling you, there is it's quite a lot of technology underneath here. But essentially, you can define the different fields that are coming over from the source, which is the case, into the target, and you can configure those very easily. If you want to go crazy, you can always go scripting here as well. But this is where, if you were to create one for incident, you would be able to do that pretty easily based upon the incident field as well. And we use a similar framework for harvesting knowledge and harvesting creating cases from community as well. So that's what is driving this whole thing. So that's what we did for creating knowledge from a case. And while we showed that, we also showed the new search bar in the contextual search. Next, I'm going to go into AQI. Um, just as I mentioned, AQI stands for Article Quality Index. So you can actually look at, we ship out of the box with set of questions. And from that set of questions, you can actually define the order in which they're displayed and the weights. And you can define your own set of questionnaires. And the questionnaires can be tagged with the with the knowledge bases. So let's say here in this case, for these two knowledge bases, I have tagged these questionnaires. So what this means is that, let's say if I go into one of the articles in this knowledge base, and you can always perform an AQI only on the latest version of the article. You can look at that, you can say perform AQI. When you open that up, you see the questions, and the UX is that you can mark a set of questions. I'm just taking it easy here on myself. I'm just saying that these questions are marked as correct. So if I submit the AQI now, an AQI score of 80 is associated with this particular version of the article. So you can have different AQIs for different versions of the article, and then AQI actually shows up in a report, which I will show later. Out of the box, we have configured the system for the AQI pass score to be 70. So if the score is less than 70, automatically emails are sent to the author of the content. And in this case, if it is a versioned content, then the latest version on which the AQI is performed, it is actually sent to the reviser of that article, right? The person who created that version, instead of sending it to the original author. And using this, you can actually look at various scores, and there is a view for all the questions that have been answered, different articles, what was the score, what was the percentage, and all that. Very powerful in terms of being able to manage the quality of your content. It becomes even more relevant as you start distributing the knowledge creation and knowledge authoring capabilities to your agents and to your call centers, because that's where the real knowledge exists, and instead of centralizing that entire experience of knowledge creation. So that's AQI. Next, I'm going to show you the external knowledge authoring, external knowledge integration. So this is where I have integrated and set this up for uh, for box here. And if I look at this, and I have actually targeted this content to a box box knowledge base, and I can actually show you. It's pretty easy to set it up. You can define a connection alias for those technically inclined. Say this is the URL where the content is available. So I've set it up for box using a demo account, and then you give a credential, and credentials are managed through the credential store of ServiceNow. So you should be rest assured that your credentials are secured and all that. So you can do all of that. And once that is done, what you will notice here is that the various parameters that we have in this. Let me just actually show you some of those parameters. So some of the parameters you already see. You can say size limit for this source, total size limit for that source, per file size, or whether you want to open it or not, including folders, excluding folders, how to create the file names, and then if you are doing, if system is slow, then maximum retry limit and others. So these are some of the parameters you can set to guardrail yourself, and then knowledge is actually acquired by the system. So what you currently see here is that, for example, let me search for for that content, and I'll show you how this looks like. And we'll also try and do a live one here. So just to router. So you are seeing here some of the search results. It says external content. This is actually coming from that knowledge base. And some of this content is, and it is mixed up with other content that is coming from other knowledge bases. So that makes it really helpful for your end users. And for example, this one is an attachment content from that external source. It also comes up, and we are able to see that information right here. We have also added a filter, which is based upon external content or knowledge articles. You can click on that to see only external content if you wanted to do that. And that's how the content shows. So what I want to do live here, and may the demo gods work with me, is to this box folder, which has been set up for testing this, I'm going to add a new file. Okay. So I've added this file. Let me just open this file to show you what it has. It says, welcome to Kingston Knowledge Management. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this job. So which, by the way, you can actually schedule these jobs to run at a periodic time, or leave it on demand based upon what you want to do. And periodic time, it will keep the content in sync. And so if in this case, what was going to happen here is a new file is going to be added. So you will see this number go from 9 to 10 once this process is completed. So let me see if the job is completed. See, it ignored certain files because the size limit was exceeded. I think the job is completed. So if I go back now, it says file. There's one more file here, and that welcome to Kingston file is now showing. If I search for voila, that content is now available. If it was deleted, that's going to go away. So that's external content search. So next thing that I'm going to go through are a few reports. Sorry, the click-through information. So as I said, we have added some information in the in the search tables, and as well as the knowledge feedback and the knowledge use table. So as you see here, all the searches that I have been doing, you are seeing those results here, the number of results and all that. What I'll do right now is I'm going to click on this first result here. So I viewed the first result, and before I refresh I want you to see this. So the highest click rank is what captures whether there is a click through or not, and at the same time it also captures if what was the click rank of that result. So if it was it was more than one, or it will just capture that value. So now as I refresh this result, you see that for the same search result, now I am capturing that there was a click through, and the click rank was 1. So if you see results in this table, you will be actually seeing that click rank. If I, let's say, go back and do my router heating up, and maybe click on the second result, and I refresh this data, You see a new search results, 3 results shown, and the highest click rank is 2. So when I show the reports later, you will see that this information is showing there. I'll do even better now. So I actually viewed the second result, and what I'll do is I'll go and show you the knowledge usage. So this is where the knowledge views are captured. What you see here is that the search that I did, and I viewed this article, we are also capturing the search ID. So from here, when this article was viewed, I not only know that it was in this particular session, but also it has a search ID in it. So I can go back and look at what was that search which was done to view this article. So very powerful information that is being captured here. And then we also captured the feedback. So let's say John decides to say that, yeah, this article was helpful. Now, if I go back to the feedback table, you now see that the helpful, useful is how we track that data is marked as yes by John Adams, this article, this session ID, this search. So you see all that information getting captured, and this helps us track the data, and which eventually we want to use for deflection analytics as well as other information. For the time being, we are shipping a few reports. So let's look at those reports. So just running the data. Interesting. Maybe I've run out of my luck on the demo. Okay. There it comes. Or did I go too fast? Oh, let me try it one more time. Yeah. So you as you were seeing that data, the number of searches and the number of searches with the click through. So from there you can look at the click through data. The other report that we have is the AQI. So you can actually look at the average AQI score by KB. So you can look at customer service KB, the average score, and as you drill down, you can look at the data. So this is the one that we just did earlier today. So those are there. I think I should have one more report for the rank. Unfortunately, I'm not able to find it. So we'll share the information offline. All right, so those were some of the reports around that. And the last piece that I wanted to show you was around knowledge harvesting from community. So let me open up the community and I'll show you this feature. There will be a separate webinar for community. We have already done one for Jakarta that should be available out there. For the Kingston features of community, we will actually schedule a separate one. So let's look at some solved content, and let's pick up this one. So you see that there has been a discussion, there has been an accepted answer, so this has been marked correct. I'm logged in as an admin. Typically, a community moderator would be the person who would be doing this exercise. You can click on harvest knowledge. Harvesting the knowledge actually copies the content from the question, the correct answer. You can modify this. For the purposes of this demo, I'm going to just go ahead and publish this article. Once I'm done publishing this article, I can go back to the question. Here is the cool thing. On the question, I show you the KB. We show you the KB article, which was created from this. But not only that, somebody just viewing the KB article can actually see that this KB article, although was created by John, was created from the community, and it was based upon Rick, who was the person who actually gave the correct answer, and it is attributed to them. And we are even tying this up with with gamification for points that may be assigned to Rick for that. So it's a closed loop between the knowledge and the community, and this is what encourages users to leverage the community to get answers. So I think I have reached the end of all the cool stuff that we have done for Kingston in terms of what I wanted to show you. Let's open up for question and answers. So Lisa, you see anything?
Yes, we had a couple questions. Can the search be configured to show content from one site preferably, or it shows random search results?
One site, as in an specific external source, I think yes, because if you are moving the content into a specific knowledge base from the external source, that's what I'm assuming you are asking. You can click on that specific knowledge base and you can see all the content from that source and then do further filtering on that search results from that source.
Okay. Then a follow-up question that the same user also asked was, what is a case? But I think you have covered that.
Right.
Okay. The clicks will be calculated per version of KA, right?
That is correct. The usage of the content is tracked at a specific version level. Yeah. So you can potentially develop reports where you can see a change in the content has improved the click-through on that content or not.
Okay. And the AQI scoring, that was a question that is actually on the thread of the community. So they understand further around the design of the AQI scoring. While it's excellent, this is now built as a standard fundamental purpose of performing an AQI score is the ability to feedback to the author of that article.
That is correct. It is fundamentally to provide a feedback to the author of that article or that specific version. That those are not exposed to the end users. And if there is more details required, we can do that in a one-on-one conversation with the desired person.
Okay, because they were saying having a comment field alongside each scoring may explain why a score hasn't been given essential to really have a benefit.
Yeah, so we do allow the person who is creating the AQI to provide a feedback. So there are fields. I did not demo that part, but there are fields in the AQI submission to provide feedback to the author or the reviser.
And they say they're really liking the forward direction towards knowledge management. Let's see. Huh?
We're very glad that you do.
Yay. Thomas also asks, in a release notes for knowledge management in Kingston, is there an in-context article creation?
I think so. Yeah, I think the release notes for Kingston knowledge management does show that data.
Okay, and in-context article creation, is it possible to configure for incident form?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, great. And that's what we've got. Then somebody else was excited about the option for templates and AQI, so they were saying it's exciting. So very nice. Let me check the live chat one more time just to see if we have any other questions from our YouTube viewers. Have to hit refresh. Come on, YouTube. Well, I think that's it.
Awesome. So feel free to keep posting your questions on the community. We are here to answer all of those. We are glad that you love those features. We'd love you to adopt those features, provide us feedback so that we can further improve the product. And let's keep the conversation going up online in the community. Thank you.
Thank you.